Hello, we're going to take a look at Chapter 1, Objective 2. Chapter 1, Objective 2 discusses the functional characteristics of human life. So, what that means is, what do you have to do to be considered a living thing, to be considered alive? There are 5 characteristics that you must possess in order to be considered alive, and they are organization, metabolism, responsiveness, movement, and development. Folks, you've got to have all 5 of these. You can't have 4 of these and then part of another one to be considered a living thing. You've got to have all of these at the same time. So one you need to know, as far as this goes, like if I were to ask you a multiple choice question and say which of the following is not considered a characteristic of life, and I said organization, metabolism, responsiveness, and oxygen. Oxygen would be the one you wouldn't, oxygen would be the not an example. So you definitely need to know what these are, but you also need to know what their definitions are. So we're going to take these one at a time and take a look at the definitions. So when we talk about organization, what exactly are we talking about? We've discussed, and we'll discuss in further in chapter 1, levels of organization. This is where you're going to start off with the chemical, like oxygen atom or a hydrogen atom, and then that's going to build into cells, which are going to build into tissues, which are going to build into organs, until eventually you get the whole organism. So it's living things are organized from a molecular level all the way up to the whole organism. This is actually how your textbook is aligned. So it starts, your textbook is aligned according to the levels of organization. Chapter 2 starts with chemicals. So this is where it begins. Metabolism, another characteristic of life that you must possess in order to be considered a living thing. What is metabolism? Metabolism is the sum of all of the chemical reactions that take place in the organism, and there's a bunch. Now, you can take those in that whole situation of chemical reactions in the body and divide them into 2 separate kinds. You have one kind that builds or makes things or synthesizes things. These are called your anabolic reactions. And what they do is they take individual components and put them together into something larger. So each one of those lines is representing a bond holding those atoms together. So that would be anabolic reactions. You're taking smaller things and you're building it into something bigger. Now, the reverse of that is the other kind, which is where you take a big molecule and break it down into smaller ones. So you can see right here, you've got a big molecule all connected by bonds, and you're going to take that, break those bonds, and form individual small particles. That would be a catabolic reaction. Now, why do I have a picture of a cat, my cat actually, on the screen there? And that's to kind of help you remember, maybe a little memory trick to help you remember that catabolic reactions break things down. If you guys have ever had a cat and a roll of toilet paper, you know very well that cats destroy things. They destroy a lot of things. So they take something big and they break it down into a bunch of unusable parts. So anyway, if that helps you remember, catabolic are the ones that destroy and break things down. That's all that is. I'll try to throw out some of those as we go through the course to kind of help you memorize certain things. Now, when you take all of those anabolic reactions and combine them with all of those catabolic reactions, the building and the breaking down reactions, you get what's called your metabolism. So it is the sum of those 2 different types. This is just a graphic showing that your entire metabolism is a combination of those catabolic reactions, which break things down into smaller molecules. Those smaller molecules then get built into larger molecules called through the process of anabolism. Those larger molecules get broken down into smaller molecules through the process of catabolism. And together, your catabolic and your anabolic reactions make your metabolism. Okay, that's all that is. Now, responsiveness. What are we talking about when we say responsiveness? It's the organism's ability to sense change in its external or, big or there, internal environment and make adjustments to those changes. I know that you all are very familiar with the external environment. So, for instance, if it's hot outside, you're going to probably go indoors, right? If it gets too hot, or if it's too cold outside, you're going to go indoors to warm up. That's external. Now, internal would be it's hot, your body temperature is getting warmer, and you're going to start producing sweat to help cool the body off. That's internal. Again, not entirely, but I need you to start thinking about how your body's responding and adjusting to internal changes. Okay, not just the external changes that you can see. So, of sweating is an example. You don't have to know the examples. I'm just trying to show you these so you understand what the definition of responsiveness is. Moving towards food or water. If you get hungry, you get up and go to the refrigerator and go get something to eat. Okay, that's very external. That's you responding to that need. Moving away from danger or a poor environment. Adjusting internal body temperature towards a normal range. So your body temperature is supposed to be 98.6. And when your body temperature gets too high, for example, you're going to start to sweat, and then it will bring that back down to normal. Dilation of blood vessels. What does that mean? Dilation is referring to the expansion of blood vessels, those blood vessels getting larger in diameter. Why would they do that? Again, that's an adjustment to a high body temperature. So not only do you sweat, internally your blood vessels are going to get bigger. They're going to dilate to try to give off that excess heat that's going on. Movement is another characteristic that an organism has to possess in order to be considered a living thing. So when we talk about movement, what are we talking about? Obviously, the movement that you're most familiar with is what you see externally. It's just a person going from point A to point B. Keep in mind, your individual organs move as well. So in other words, your heart beats within its cavity. Now, obviously, it's not going to get up and move to another location in the body, but it beats within its space that it's given. So it moves. That's considered movement. And this last image is what is found inside of your cells. All of your cells, with the exception of one or two, contain this organelle called a mitochondria, as you can see on the screen there. The organelles within cells, they actually move as well. So it's not that they're static and they don't do anything. They're moving. That movement counts as movement towards being considered a living thing. So any of those. So it doesn't have to be something that you actually see with your unaided eye. For instance, the tree, you're probably not going to notice moves. So it moves towards the light. The roots move towards the water deep in the ground. And the organelles within the cells of the tree move. They have mitochondria as well. Development. Now, development is divided into several different subcategories. So we've got 4 subcategories of development. Development, by definition, is the changes that an organism undergoes through time, beginning with fertilization when the sperm and egg come together in a human, for example, and end with death. So that kind of encompasses a large time span, right? So the first part of development that you must possess is differentiation. And that means that cells change in structure and function from generalized to more specific. For example, a zygote, single-celled organism, which forms from the combination of a sperm and an egg. That would be a very generalized type cell. That cell can turn into anything, very generalized. However, if you get a heart cell, a heart muscle cell, that's going to act very differently than, let's say, a blood cell. Okay, so they are very specialized at that point. The heart cell could not be replaced by a blood cell and expect the same outcome. Whereas initially, that stem cell is very diverse in what it's able to do, very generic. So again, zygote to a fetus, that formation of going from zygote to a fetus would be differentiation. Bone marrow stem cell, which a stem cell can form other cells. For instance, this cell can turn into a red blood cell, could turn into platelets, could turn into a white blood cell. So that stem cell is very generalized. And once you get into the red blood cell, the platelet, or the white blood cell, they have very, very specific functions. Okay, so that's differentiation. Just some examples. You need to know the definition. The examples are there just to help understand. With development as well, there's a subcategory called growth. And this is just an increase in body size. I put a human on here. So yes, you're taller and bigger than you were when you were a toddler. So it's just getting bigger in size. And then development can also include renewal. With renewal, you get new cells that have formed due to repairing older cells, replacing dead cells, again, growing in body size. So this is what renewal means. So you're literally taking one cell and forming 2 genetically identical cells from that. That is renewal. Now, the process of a cell that undergoes renewal, that process is called mitosis. This is genetically looking at the original cell and comparing it to the two new cells that formed. They're genetically identical. That's mitosis. And this is a process of renewal. Again, your skin cells, for example, every time you rub up against something or something like that, some of your cells shed off. That's just kind of what they do. And you need new ones to replace those. That's going to be mitosis. Now, with the last type of development, the subcategory called reproduction, this is when you get a brand new organism from a parent organism. And this process is known as meiosis. This is where you take the egg cell from the female, the sperm cell from the male. These would be considered the parents. And then you get a brand new organism from that. This is reproduction. And that is a process known as meiosis. One of the questions that has been out there from the beginning of time is, are viruses considered a living thing? Such as maybe the COVID virus. Is it considered alive? Well, you can't give it antibiotics to make it go away. Antibiotic. Anti means no, bio means life. So you're literally killing life. In order to have an antibiotic, something must be alive in order for you to have to kill it. Bacterial infections, strep throat, things like that, you would be given an antibiotic to get rid of it. So you're killing bacteria, right? So bacteria is a living thing. You can't do that with a virus. A virus is not considered a living thing. Why? What part of these 5 steps does a virus not possess? Reproduction. This is the part that a virus is not able to do. In order to reproduce, it must infect a host. And it hijacks the host's DNA and has the host do the reproduction. So that's the little difference there as to why viruses are not considered a living thing. So an example question, just to kind of practice what we've just taken a look at, is taking these 5 types of these 5 characteristics here and matching them up with what their meanings are. So that would be one example. And there's a handout, I believe, that you've got for this on your Moodle page. Another type of question, again, just to kind of practice, is mitosis describes the development known as renewal or reproduction. So you would put the respective answer in the block there. Same thing for meiosis. This is just, again, a little hint. In order to be successful in the class or in any class, you need to be excited about the material. Volunteer to do some outside reading on your own to kind of help everything make more sense. And then objective 3A is the next objective, and that there will be a separate video on that one.